Welcome to What's Left, the weekly political discussion challenging the mainstream left. I'm Eduardo Barca with co-hosts, featuring socialist Andy Lipson and community organizing socialist Kenny Cepeda. We are online at what-s-left.webnode.com. Folks, please subscribe, rate, review, turn on your notifications, jot down our information, and share your favorite episode wherever you found this episode. Joining us today for a conversation is Deyanira Calahorrano, a mother, healthcare worker, an activist, organizer, SFUSD parent, family advocate, president and spokesperson for el Comité de las Madres Latinoamericanas en la Misión, or Committee of Latin American Mothers of the Mission, and a fellow organizer as well, because we've been working together on some key issues. So welcome, Deyanira. Thank you for being here with us today.
Just thank you for having me.
And not just key issues, but the issue of reopening schools. That's something that we've been talking a lot about.
Yeah. So we're very excited to have you with us and to know more about your work, as well as the organizing efforts lately that you've been working on. Very, 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 very just all around excited for this interview.
And,
Thank you.
I am personally excited because I've heard about this group a lot through Lipson and Eduardo. And so, I'm excited to put a face to the group, at least one of the faces. And so maybe to get started, can we ask you to say a little bit about Comité de las Madres de la Misión? What is it, how it formed?
Yeah, sure. And the Latina Moms Committee of the Mission District got actually formed last summer, July 2020, to be more precise. The reason for this group of moms to get organized, it was the problem with the schools that were not being opened. But in fact, at the beginning, it was more about to get together and to have the kids doing some activities outside. We did have, before the pandemic, we were having some music workshops for free here in the community, and we were getting together once a week. But the pandemic hit, and we had to stop. Everything was just closed, and we were, locked down and isolated. In an effort to continue, at least to get some kind of connection, we decided to move a program to the Zoom. But music is so difficult to do it through Zoom. So we we organized a storytelling program. It was a virtual storytelling program in Spanish. So that way we were connected, and the kids were having some kind of, we were just trying to get not to be so isolated, not to be alone. And we got connected with people from Latin America. I got in contact with a friend of mine that is in Mexico, and she's a storyteller. So we were having a conversation, and we decided to organize this. We didn't know how it's going to be, but we decided, okay, let's do it, and we just started. Through that, every week we were having a storytelling time for over 4 months, and we were getting connected with more families and kids from Latin America, from Ecuador, Spain, Mexico, sometimes Colombia, Venezuela, and the kids from the mission. So through this, kids were knowing other cultures, and the Latin American culture is very diverse. So the kids were exposed through the virtual tool, the Zoom, to other people and other cultures in Latin America. But when the summer came and the city was opening a little bit, we just decided to go out and start the music program outside. So I needed to, we were discussing about this with the moms, and I said, right now, no one is offering anything in person. And the reason for that is because everybody is afraid of having kids in person and maybe getting sick, and how the system works here. And so I said, I'm willing to keep helping with the museum workshop through the organization that I am the founder, Integrarte San Francisco, but we need to have a moms group that is in charge, that's responsible for it, because only the moms can do this. If you do that, if we, the moms, are in charge and we go outside and have our kids outside, if someone comes and asks something, or um, they decide to complain or something, we are the moms and we need to be responsible for it, and we are going to be in charge of that. So no one is going to tell us anything if we are in charge. So I just, brought this to the moms, and I said, for this, we need to create a sort of committee of moms. And we are going to be the Latino moms from the mission, the Latino moms committee from the mission district. And then, we were having the kids outside once a week during the summer, and the kids were happy. They were, for us, it was very important to have the kids together and having that contact, and also for the families, for the moms, because we have been suffering from isolation. We were tired to be out inside, and we needed to be out. The kids needed to have some exercise. Music is a healing tool that help everybody, right? So we did that. By the end of the summer, we all were wondering what's going to happen with the schools. We are from different schools. We are from the mission, but each one of us is from different schools. So we were talking about what news we are receiving from the school district, and no one had any news about what is happening, if we are going to go back to school, what's happening with the private schools. It seems they are going back, but the public schools, nothing. We don't know anything. So because I have been kind of organizing since the beginning of my time at the San Francisco Unified School District, I said, you know what, we need to write a letter. And we need to send a letter to the district asking them what is happening, what's going to happen. We just need to have some news. We need to be informed. And it was the beginning of the school year, and we were having some meetings with the PTA, meetings with the ELAC at the school. And through that meeting, I got connected with a mom that actually is connected with Decreasing the Distance leader, with Meredith. So we were talking, and we were actually already exchanging this idea of sending a letter, because no one knows what's going to happen. We were asking asking to the principal, asking at the PTA with so many questions. So when this mom said, okay, I think, do I have permission to connect you with this man, because we are already also thinking in sending a letter. So that's the way we got connected with Decreasing the Distance, and we started working together on the reopening effort. And so that's the beginning of the Latino Moms Committee. It was more because of the need that we had to do something for kids, for ourselves, to be outside. Basically, it was because of that, to provide some outdoor opportunity, activity for our kids when no one was doing anything. Everything was closed. Everything, we felt completely abandoned. And all the nonprofit organizations were closed. All of them were providing programs, but it was Zoom programs. For the families, especially for the Latino families, the church was also closed. Everything was closed. So I felt, I was doing this work. I have been doing this work since my kid is a baby. trying to help with the developmental and, help in providing opportunities for his education, especially the Latin American culture. I mean, the cultural education and the Spanish language programs for him. And it was a great opportunity to also share that experience with the families and educate the moms that we need to do this work. That sharing what has been my experience as a mom and why I'm doing, why it's important for me to have my kid learning about the culture and the promoting the Spanish language, and with that also explaining that we need to get together if we want to go through this hard time, because on our own it's going to be really hard, and it is hard. So we need to create those networks of solidarity, and collectively we need to be looking for solutions to the many problems that we have.
I have a question about what sort of impact have you seen this work on both the students or the children, but also what impact has it had on the mothers and the adults who are doing this?
It's very interesting, and it's very rewarding to see the positive impact that this work has had on the families, not only the kids, the moms, but the whole family. Before they were kind of sad and not finding, when you don't feel that your voice is listened, when you feel that you are not, you are just excluded, you are being marginalized, right? And because you don't speak a language, you really feel sadness. You can be depressed, and they were like that because they have been not listened by the system always. So when they were experiencing that we together we could do things that can help us to be listened, especially seeing the kids that they are suffering, because they were suffering seeing the kids inside all the time. That was the main concern. The kids being locked down, the kids being inside all the time, not having the time playing with kids outside, having the friends. That was the most impactful. That was the most negative impact that they had and they felt. So we were creating a community for us to be able to not feel so isolated, to help to each other if we need, to feel some kind of hope. And the music, through the music, we had a teacher that's Peruvian, it's Afro-Peruvian. So it was right at the time that it was happening, all about the police brutality and this Black Lives Matter movement and all of that. So we were living through that, and we were having the music, and we were also having talks about the slaves and Afro-Peruvian descendants, and it was kind of education, education about the race and everything that's happening, but also with the music. So all of that, and when the kids were having the music together, the moms also were together, because that was our requirement, right? It's not a program that you can just go and leave your kid, but you need to be participant there. You need to be there. So it was a time for the moms. So they felt also, a basic, right there, a basic need covered, that you have the time to be chatting, to be talking, because we need that to share what's going on. And is instead of maybe having an appointment with the provider, so you're right there with the other moms, exchanging information, exchanging ideas, learning, and that has made the difference. with the families, with the moms, and with the kids. Myself, I can say that if I wouldn't have that group of moms together, I probably could have been at this point depressed and sick, and really, it was really hard. It was really hard.
I may have a follow-up. Just so we came together at a time where what was being said was the safeties in being apart. And so you basically did the opposite. You did together. And so I'm curious. Did you? What was the reception of maybe teachers or the city? The district that you sent the letter to, or other parents? Did you have any resistance as to what you were doing?
Actually, it was really difficult to get to connect with other families. Because of exactly what you said, we were inviting more families to come to the park, and they didn't come. They didn't. They didn't actually criticize what we were doing, but they didn't come. I think they were afraid. But the families that I was working with, we were not afraid. I mean, we were families that were working before, and I guess the difference here is that I am a healthcare worker, and I do understand the science. I am a pharmacist. I am a foreign pharmacist. I'm not a pharmacist here. I have to go through all the process to be able to be a pharmacist here, which is really long and expensive process. So I'm not a pharmacist here, but I am a pharmacist. And I'm working at the hospital, San Francisco General Hospital. So that gives me, I guess, some kind of credibility with the families. So they do trust me. And I was following the precautions. I mean, we were following the precautions. We were outside, having social distancing, wearing the mask, using the hand sanitizer, and explaining. I do understand how the virus works. I mean, I don't believe what the TV said, right? I mean, that's propaganda. And that has been one of the main things that I was telling to the Decreasing the Distance parents at the beginning, is what we have in the Spanish news is complete misinformation. Our families do not have the education about what's going on in Spanish, the health education that they need. And I was telling them, I don't know, I don't understand why, and I do work for the Department of Public Health, why we do not have a big education campaign, health education campaign, to really educate our community in Spanish. We don't have it. We don't have it, right? It's just misinformation. And to be honest, also misinformation in English. So I was seeing that the propaganda was being out there just to make people be afraid. So you need to take precautions. Yes, that's true. You need to take care of yourself. Yes, that's true. But it's different thing to be manipulated because of the using the people to be afraid. That's something different. And because of that, the families. I mean, and our families couldn't stay at home all the time. Our people are working. Our people is the people that is working outside. They haven't stopped being outside working. So I guess because of that, we, by experience, we know that it's not too much as the propaganda is saying, that's so dangerous and so bad, right? That's not how it is, because people have been outside working, and they are workers, essential workers, as they call it, right? And at least the group of families that I have been working, we are not afraid. We are not afraid, and we were outside. Restaurants were having the services outside. Especially the Dolores Park has been full, packed, the people outside, And it was so, I was so mad because the kids need to be outside. We need to be more intentional and having those spaces for the kids and the youth. They need that. So I was really mad that the city was opening, people were enjoying outside, but our kids were inside, completely isolated. And that was just showing me that we have a society that do not care about the kids, that do not care about the youth. And we need to do things differently. We really need to think about them and create spaces for them. And that's what I was doing because of my own need and the need of the moms. And yes, usually I do the opposite of what the system says. I enjoy it doing that.
So before el comité, there was the committee. There was integrarte. ¿Sí?
Integrarte.
Entregarte. Okay. Entregarte.
No, it's like integrate.
Oh, integrate. There was you already were organizing. You were doing a project then. This is before el comité, and then you kind of fused it a bit, but before sort of providing the service through this project of yours. Maybe you can share with us a bit about that project of yours.
Yes, integrarte or integrate in English, right? As the name is saying, is talking about integration. And the reason for that name is because I am an immigrant. And I have felt, and this is what's happening with the system, that the system is really trying so hard and doing such a good work to assimilate the immigrants. And I didn't want to be assimilated. And I think it's important to tell the people that we especially when we have this anti-immigrant sentiment here, that we want to be part of this country. We want to be part of this society, but we don't want to be assimilated. We want to integrate to what we have here, right? Because we are coming with a lot to offer. We come with a culture. We come with a language. We have, especially the Latino community is very diverse. We are very different. We have many countries. We have, it's very rich. So even though they are trying to assimilate us, it's hard to do that. I mean, we keep our culture, we keep our traditions. They change, they fuse, but we keep it some way or another. We keep it. And that was my message with this, that as an immigrant, we want to integrate. And we have a lot to offer, not only the language, but the culture. And this is, you can prove it, right? The Mexican culture, I mean, the white English-speaking people love Mexican food. They love Mexican culture. I mean, it's something that is there. You cannot deny that. And especially here in the city, the San Francisco is a very diverse city, and I think that's the richness of the city, and that's the beauty of the city, and that's something that we really need to realize. That's a treasure. We have all cultures here, and you can learn about all of them here in one city. So we need to embrace that, and we need to cultivate that. That's the multicultural education that we need to provide to our kids, and I think that's going to be the solution to what we are facing right now, the division and so much racism. I think that's what we need to do. The Integrarte project was born basically with my son. I think I said that because it was based on my own need to inherit my culture to him. And I, again, because I was really, really interested in helping my kid growing up here. It's hard to grow in a society like this. I couldn't just leave it to the system. I needed to learn, and I needed to learn from the beginning, learning how is for a kid that's bilingual, bicultural, growing up here in the system. So I noticed that we don't have those opportunities for our kids. When you are an adult, when you grow up, you have the opportunities because you decide to start looking for other cultures and you learn. But as a kid, there are not many opportunities for the kids to be exposed. So I felt that need, and I was complaining all the time, complaining we don't have this and we don't have programs in Spanish and we don't have cultural programs for our kids. And I remember one of my friends told me, you know what, here what you need to do is, if there isn't something that you don't have, you have to create it. So I said, okay, I'm going to create it. And from there I started because we do have the resources, we have everything here, we have the people from everywhere. So we just need, and we have the musicians, we have artists, we have everything here, the scientists. I mean, we have all the resources, the human resources are there. We just need to have that willingness and intentionality to do something, to create something for our kids. And that's how I started working on that, and it has been 10 years, 11 years now.
I have kind of two questions for you, Dea. First question is, me and a minority of teachers were feeling we should have opened school back in August 2020. First of all, what are your thoughts about that? And I have a follow-up to that question.
Well, I want to know all that minority of teachers because I think they need to be together with us. We think the same thing. I don't understand the reason they didn't open the schools last August. They should have opened it. I was really mad that they didn't open it. I was really mad because there were not really reasons to have the schools closed. I know in general, the community, I mean, the people that I'm talking with, they are in support of the teachers that didn't want to go back, because they said if there's no vaccines, so then they are right. They shouldn't go back. But at this point, we already have all the private schools and the parochial schools that were open. So it's now, as what you said is proven with the experience from even within the families. They do have like one kid that was going to the parochial school, and the kid has been going since last September. And the kids from the public schools, if it's middle school student, is not going to school even now. If it's high school student, is not going back to school.
I guess I would like to have you respond to the reasons I was given by my colleagues a lot of times, which was, one, we're going to keep the kids more safe by keeping them remote learning. They'll be more safe, we'll be more safe, and everyone will be safe by doing that. And number two, specifically, families of colors were mentioned as being more at risk with COVID. Our healthcare system is worse. So many teachers often said that we're actually protecting our families of color by staying in this distance learning and being remote. What would you say about those two things?
I would say that they have to stop assuming what families want, and they do not have the right to decide for us. They need to have that connection with the families, and basically by that, the families also were able to see that how disconnected the teachers are from the families, and they are just assuming, and that has been the rule. They are assuming what the families need, what the families want, and they do not talk to the family. So the communication, basically, that was showing how the communication is broken, and it has been broken always because the teachers do not really talk to the families. They just decide for them. And that was really annoying. And that was one of the reasons that we were speaking up, because we said, no, that's not true. And we need to talk. We need to talk. We need to be discussing about this. That's part of the democracy, right? If they just decide that they are going to speak for the families, that's wrong. That's the wrong part here. And now we know. I mean, it was a learning lesson for us, for the families. And I'm glad that some families are opening their eyes, because they trust. That's part of the culture. They trust to the teachers a lot. They trust to the priest, and they trust to the doctors. But now that the trusting relationship with the teachers is kind of broken.
In some ways, I would almost say that it is good that families start understanding not to trust in your doctor, always trust in your teacher, or trust in the leaders in the community, because families need to understand too that these people have it wrong too, and that we need to also figure it out on ourselves. Because I know in the Latino community, you're raised to think, oh, pregúntale al maestro, or we're going to do what the maestro says, we're going to do what the teacher says. But I'm glad many families are beginning to see it's teachers are not always the go-to wise people that I know that people put them as. No.
Yes, that's true.
So you're both a frontline worker in the health industry, and a mother and a parent. So as a frontline worker and as a mother and parent, what would actual solidarity from educators have looked like? Since it wasn't what we offered, what would solidarity have really been for you as a worker and as a parent?
That actually comes with the question that I answered before, right? If you don't have communication with the parents, so you really don't know what we are suffering, right? If they just decided to said that they are protecting our families just because they didn't want to go back, and they were having their agenda. So that was clearly for us that they were so selfish, that they are just fighting for their rights. And as a worker, I mean, the union is for that. The union is there to fight for the protecting the rights of the workers, right? But we were going through a pandemic, and we all were suffering from this pandemic, right? Not only the teachers. And it's really kind of sometimes it's a little bit insulting that they do not think about the healthcare workers, and especially workers like myself, um, and they think they are protecting me and my kid when I have to work. I can't say no, right? I have to work. And we were even the healthcare workers right now during the pandemic. We were even going through really hard situations. For example, I was working with a nurse that was deployed. She was deployed, and she has been deployed the whole year. So I had to take care of the patients on my own. We had to be there for the patients, holding the fort. We were left alone. And then I was left alone at work. I was left alone from the school because my son is not going to school. I was like, I just felt that the whole system was collapsing. It was just broken. But you need to keep going. You need to keep going. And for a while, we all said, okay, we are in this together. We are going to do the effort, and we are going to, just keep holding the fort and going, right? But then at some point, the teachers don't want to go back, and the city is opening. People are outside kind of enjoying the life while the healthcare workers keep working. And it's like, okay, there's no solidarity. They are fighting for their benefits and their rights, but they do not think about the rest, and they do not think about the kids, and they don't think about the healthcare workers like myself, or moms, workers, for the working people, the moms that are working full time, and they don't have any option. They have to be outside, and they have to leave the kids alone at home, um, in not in very safe conditions sometimes. And they cannot say that they are protecting our kids by not letting the kids going back to school, because it was completely the opposite. It was completely the opposite. So by this, I just realized, you with the pandemic, for me, it has been like I can see clearly what a society from a capitalistic society is. It's very individualistic, and the workers are also very individualistic and very selfish. They don't know what solidarity means. People in general don't know what solidarity means. But I do understand why. If you do not learn this when you are growing up, you don't know, because you haven't been exposed to it. I am from a collective society, so I I came, in my early 30s, so I grew up there. I know how that works. It's different. I know what a community means. I know what solidarity means, and what they are doing is not solidarity. I mean, they do not know what it is. So we do understand the moms. We do understand that we have to do it ourselves, and we need to be creating something new based on what we have brought from our countries, our experiences coming from, the countries that are collective society.
Can we maybe talk about that a little more, like about your background? If you are willing to share where you're from, and how those experiences have shaped, where you're at right now. And
sure. I'm from Ecuador, from the capital, Quito. I have been living here for 20 years. I had to emigrate 20 years ago during the 2019, 99, 2000, due to a big crisis, economic crisis that my country had to face because of the International Monetary Fund measures imposed, and also the imposition of a U.S. military base in my country. That created a huge crisis, and 25% of the population had to leave the country. Now, millions of Ecuadorians had to leave the country. They went to the United States, Spain, Italy, and other countries. So it was a really, really big crisis and a huge exodus that we had to face. How that shaped me, knowing that we have to face those kind of economic problems due to the U.S. Foreign policy, the International Monetary Fund. I mean, we know who is the responsible for problems, right? And we know who is the responsible on why we had to become immigrants. So having that consciousness, everything that we do and we learn here, especially in my case, is having that in mind. Having that in mind, that we have governments that do not care about the people, that we need to fight, and we need to, just thinking that someday we will be able to have something different, if not for us, for our kids. And it's just like, living through that with that consciousness. I'm from South America. South America is the part of the continent that is more conscious, that has more consciousness about what United States has done to our countries, and it's very, especially if you are young, you have that kind of ideology, you have that kind of need that you could do something to change what we have, because we know that we can do something, we can have something different than what we are living right now. It's not the life. It's not what we, as a workers, we should have. We know that we can do something different, and that has been in my mind, and always looking for people and for places. You know, I'm always saying that I'm thinking that out of all places that I could have gone, I am here in San Francisco, and it is different. I love the city, and I have been able to learn a lot in terms of the politics and different ideologies. I keep learning, um, but I think it has been a great opportunity because I have been able to be in places where and with people that also think differently.
Well, I guess the question I would have is, what I hear you saying is, in Ecuador, you feel like that's where you got to understand really that you really can't trust the government, that people have to rely on each other and workers have to rely on each other, and a more communal understanding and a more understanding that we have to have a struggle together to fight for justice. And I wonder, what are the sort of lessons that you learned once you came here? Because you're still doing that. You're still on that struggle for fight for justice. So I am wondering, in the United States, once you arrived here, what were the positive lessons or maybe negative lessons that you learned when you came here?
Mm-hmm. Well, the positive, the positive lessons, the diversity. That's what I love. Everything that I learned, I think the first part I learned in my country, but the second part and the very important part I learned in here, and I learned it through the people. When I was studying, first of all, when I was studying English at the City College of San Francisco, I would be sitting with my classmates, right? Classmates from Nicaragua, from El Salvador, from Peru, from everywhere, and we were talking. I mean, that's how I learned about history and about what happened in those countries, because the people from Nicaragua would tell me, moms from Nicaragua, people from El Salvador would tell me, um, people from Argentina would tell me things that I could, I wouldn't know if I couldn't learn from the people, because of course the governments do not want you to know about that, and they just hide, and they just don't, they just lie. They hide from us what the real things are happening, right? So I have been able to learn about Argentina and the dictatorship, the people that disappear. Here, with talking with friends, if we had parties, we were talking with them. It's just sharing about our experiences. From Chile, people from Chile, from Argentina, all the countries in Central America. It's just by sharing. And then with other people from other places, once you learn English, so it's just, that's the reason of the diversity here. When you start talking, and it's like, okay, all people from all over the world. That's the reason. Well, I would say the most negative uh, part, and the lessons that I learned from something negative, is about the discrimination, the racism that we have here in this country. That's why. And then, culturally, we are different. We're so different. The people from Latin America with the people from here. I mean, the white Anglo people, Anglo culture is so different. It's very different. But it was very important for me to understand when I realized that we are talking about different societies. We are talking about the collective societies and the capitalistic societies, individualistic societies, right? It was then that I realized and I could understand better many things that you don't understand, because you just are moving from one day to another, from one country to another country, and then you are just trying to start all over again. Yeah, learning everything. Yeah, and of course reading books. No, reading a lot of books that Otherwise, you wouldn't understand just seeing what you see. You have to read. You have to read. You have to study.
Yeah, I mean, let me see. So I'm curious about your experience as a parent. And I can sense out that you have a, I also come from another country, and I think that being an outsider gives you a different perspective when you come here, and you realize how much you use that word propaganda there is here. Often the news here talks about other countries, like only other countries do propaganda. But I'm curious as to what you as a parent, seeing your kids, the things that they're learning, especially about history, and especially from what is there a disconnect, as to what and what they're being taught?
Yeah, of course. Of course, and that's part of my job. That's the reason why I created a program to provide an alternative, and I'm constantly working with him. And this is one of the fights that I'm doing right now with the teachers and the school, because before we didn't have the all the Google system and the Zoom, so I was able to be more involved. And when we were doing some homework and we were checking, reading together or helping him with the writing, actually sitting with him doing the homework, I was able to, because I wanted to see, he's being taught. And we also talk with the moms, no, because we know what, the kids come and they say things. So I knew that, and I know the system is not going to provide what I want. So I needed to create an alternative and to provide him with that alternative so he can have two things to compare, right? And when I'm helping with the homework, I'm just, not helping with the homework, but also we are discussing and providing more resources. Now we do have with the internet um, eh, more. We have access to other sources for information, right? And with YouTube videos, it's a lot different and better than before. So I would be telling him the real story, you know, and then always try to promote the critical thinking. Okay, at the school they are telling you this, and the good thing, especially for the immersion programs, because he has been going to the immersion programs, learning in Spanish. So I have had some luck that we have teachers, Latino teachers that are also providing a different perspective, not only the the narrative that they have to give, they have to provide, right? Is always trying to give a little bit more so he can have two different things and he can think critically about what he is being taught, right? That has been my job as a parent, as a mom. um, and right now with the Zoom and with the online school, with the distance learning, that was taken away, because now they are on the Zoom, and then they do the Google homework. So I cannot be part of it, right? And I have been fighting that. I'm just taking away, trying to take away from the teacher, especially the history. And I'm doing that. I'm doing that. Um, that's my fight right now. That's exactly what I'm fighting, because I cannot. I am telling to the principal, to the teachers, explaining that I want to have an alternative. I don't want him to be on Zoom. I want to decrease the time on Zoom as much as I can. And I want to keep doing the work as we did before, because they are taking away that from me. I am that parent that wants to be with a kid, that wants to be helping the kid, and the system right now is taking all that away from me. Plus, the kid is not learning anything, because we cannot learn anything on Zoom. That's a lie. I have told them, this is an experiment that is not working. That's what it is, and we need to go back to school. That's why I have been fighting for 7 months to have the schools reopen.
So I guess I want to stay with the propaganda, but maybe be more specific. And again, because the two areas this year have been, number one, there's propaganda about how dangerous COVID, SARS-CoV-2 is, right? There's propaganda about how safe Zoom and remote learning is, right? There's propaganda around that. And I would also say there's propaganda about having to get everyone vaccinated and vaccine passports as a means of escaping the first round. What of that do you, I guess, how do you assess the things you're being told by media and by our government about some of these things?
Yeah.
About these things.
All right. The first thing, it was about the vaccine. No, that wasn't the first
the COVID and SARS-CoV-2.
Okay. Yeah. I know that is something that I wish I could have a way to, and that's one of the things that I want to keep doing, the education to the parents, the health education for parents, but with science, you know, showing the parents why the the propaganda is just there to make you feel afraid, and to a way to manipulate you. Just explaining about the virus, how that works, um, why you cannot be afraid, and especially right now, you know, there are so many examples that is showing you that you are being manipulated. If you are not afraid to be out at the Costco or at the, you know, malls, you're not afraid to be there shopping, but you are afraid to be outside or in the schools. So there is something that is not matching, right? It's just a common sense. You're fine going to a mall or being spending hours inside of a mall shopping. You shouldn't be afraid to be being in the school having education, right? If you are fine going out to sit down outside in a restaurant, eating, not having that social distancing, if you are not afraid of doing that, you shouldn't be afraid to be at school, sitting, having an education, right? Having your kid having an education, and then keep providing, translating the science data that we have, the research that we have about the kids not being the vectors of transmission and why they are not the vectors of transmission, and understanding for them, explaining why the kids are more equipped to fight. The immunology system is more equipped to fight because they do have more, you know, the equipment to fight those virus, and that's the reason why they are safe, because they are not the vector of transmission. They have to fight better the diseases, and that's just part of the natural development, right? That's one thing. And then about you said about the Zoom being safe. Okay, that's one of the things that I'm fighting right now, and I'm looking for. I already went to the pediatrician. Um, I already went to a doctor for myself, because being on Zoom and being online, what they are doing is making the kids to be to be more used to this way of like training the brain. That's what they are doing, training the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not only having the kids online doing the Zoom, because the kids are not really doing Zoom. What they are doing is just having the camera there off most of the times, being present, you know, quote unquote present, and then being with another window, playing the games. And we all know those games, what they do with those games. So what they are doing is just making the brain, the kid's brain addictive. And they know that. I mean, they know that. We don't know that. And what I want is to educate our parents about that, because, you know, I did take a course a few years ago, but it was a year ago, no, 2 years ago, about the addictive brain. So we know how the brain works. So right now we need to retrain the brain. because they are just making the brain of the kids addictive, and they get addicted because the technology and the corporations, the tech people, that's what they want, because they want clients, they want consumers, and they are using this opportunity to have us, as a consumers and next consumers, being creating anxiety on the people, and then buying more. That's what they want. I mean, that's what the system is about. So that's the reason why I'm fighting that, and based on the mental health, because we need to save the kids from that. We cannot let them do this to our kids. This is a problem, and it's not a problem that's making sick our kids. But in my case, talking about my personal experience, I'm just framing it like that. You are making me sick, and I'm not letting you to make me see it, and I'm not letting you to make my kids see it. I'm going to fight this. And then about the vaccines, well, again, this is just it's about science. I told you I am a pharmacist, and I have been, I know, and I have been studying about, I know about the experimental phases that medicine needs to have before it's going out and having, to the having the medication outside for the farm, for the kids, for the people. I don't want to get vaccinated. I want to wait. And I can't get vaccinated because I do, and I'm going to say this publicly, I do have an autoimmune disease. So the vaccine could be even worse for me. So I just, I have to be safe. I don't want to have the vaccine. I need to have an explanation. I mean, I need to be informed. What happens with that nanotechnology in your body? What happens with the RNA in your body? Before knowing that, I can have a vaccination just like that, blindly, and then I don't want to have my kid getting a vaccine because I don't know what's going to happen with him, right? If you're 70 years old, it's just, the risk and the benefit. But if you are a 12-year-old, I can't do that to my kid.
I'm curious. So I think some of us here share these similar, questions that we have. And I've had, I've been on the receiving end of, like accusations of being anti-science and, conspirational. And, my curiosity is, have you faced any of these, accusations or questions, around your opinions, or I'm just curious about your experience, because I, even among teachers, I think the dominant idea is that everyone's at risk, and that, paranoia.
I know.
And so, yeah, I'm just curious about your experience, having this opinion.
At the beginning, I was telling them, because it's the truth, I can't get vaccinated because it's an experimental vaccine, and they don't know what the risks are for certain groups. And I am one of those groups, right? So it's true. What I'm saying is true. But even if I couldn't have that, I wouldn't get vaccinated. So I guess I don't have to explain that much when I said, you know what, I can't because of this. So that's it. They can't say anything else, right? But I don't explain anything else because I know right now how it is, and especially the teachers. And that just makes me feel so, so it's like I really feel like the teachers are so ignorant. It's like they lack of information. They don't know about the science. They need to be educated. That's what it is. They need to be educated, and I feel so bad that the teachers that are educating our kids, they need to be educated to learn about how science works. And it's not just about the teachers, but everybody else, even professionals in different areas, they are the same. And it's just like, oh my, just I'm realizing how ignorant our society is. That's what it is. But it's intentional, right? The system wants all of us ignorant so they can do whatever they want with us. but it's just about the lack of information. I mean, the lack of education. We should all have access to that information. We all should be educated. We all need to have that kind of health education. That's what we need. The society needs that. So the first thing I was realizing and I couldn't understand is why we don't have the health education. You know, the Department of Health, why they didn't have big education campaigns on TV, on radio, on TV about the pandemic and how we can handle it. They don't have that. And if they don't have that, it's for a reason, right? So it's up to us. That's what I'm saying. If we don't do it, no one is going to do it. We need to do it. We need to start educating our families. We need to start educating our kids, our youth, our fellows, or everybody. Because the government is not going to do it. The government lies all the time.
Yeah, you're talking about a healthy way to see any pandemic, right? Any way to see a healthy way to deal with a situation rather than panicking mode and everyone doing what they're doing now, and then government using that as a way to advance political agendas, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Andy?
Oh, so, you know, because we're having this conversation right now about vaccines, this could be our last episode on YouTube. So I'm wondering. So
Nos han censurado. We're being censored.
Our send off. But could you compare the environment in this country right now around censorship and propaganda to what you might remember from Ecuador? Like, could you compare and contrast those? Because people think free country here, and they think, oh, these other countries with brutal dictators or iron governments, they're fooling their people. How would you compare that here versus where?
Okay, I'm gonna share. You know, this is always in my mind. When I just got here 20 years ago, I came with friends. I mean, I have friends here, so I came with them, right? I stayed with them 2 weeks when I got here. So they were telling me about, you know, just telling me about the city, about how the life is here, and so they were telling me about things that I cannot do here because they lived in my country, so I knew them from my country, so they did have also that experience, right? So they were teaching me about things that I cannot do, right? So they were telling me you cannot cross the streets here, or well, all those things. So by the time that they went over maybe the fifth or sixth, you know, thing on the list, I just said, you know, I was in my mind, this is too many to remember, right? So can you please tell me what I can do so that would be easy for me to remember, right? So that explains. That I think explains what it is. It's like, oh my God, this is too much. This is too much. Just tell me what I can do. I think it's easier from. It's gonna be easier to remember that. 20 years ago, what I remember, and when the country that I left, it has changed a lot. But you know, we don't have freedom here. We don't have freedom here. I'm coming from a country, a small country, a third world country, but we did have freedom there. We might not have money, we might not have all the resources that you have here, but we did have freedom. We did have more freedom. It has changed, and especially the biggest changes were in terms of lack of freedom. Actually, came with the progressive government. That was one of the biggest changes in terms of some censoring people, censoring the freedom of speech. It was with the progressive government. And then, of course, the continuation with the right wing, especially right now, we do have a right wing government. But the interesting thing with this is that the right wing government won not because the people are really supporting the right wing government, but because they didn't want to have again this so-called progressive. Because right now it's very clear for us that the left, wherever it is, the left is the left of the system. It's not, the real left that we need to fight for a change. Because it's the same. Now we are just seeing it. It's just realizing that the system is a system and it's not going to change within the system because it's so corrupt that anyone that's going to go into the system has to be, is going to get corrupt. Otherwise, it's a system. It's a system. And that's why we need to change the system, right? That is, by experience, is already well known that it's not going to change from within. Yeah. And the only thing that we have right now is to keep organizing and to keep creating new alternatives, from the people and for the people. That's what people are doing there. Is a fight, is a long life, fight for everyone. But we need to do it, and we also need to do it here.
I mean, I just wanted to comment that when you were talking about, basically this fascist, the fascist approach, the censorship, the controlling, the managing people. I thought you were talking about our progressive party here. That when we look at a history, is not one or the other. They are both part of the system, and in fact, just like you described about Ecuador, when we look at the Democrats, they have a lot of blood in their hands. A lot of racism, a lot of fascism. Persecution of people, incarceration of people, and so that's just to drive the point home that we don't live in a free society. That because of the indoctrination, the propaganda that we're subjected to, we accept this notion that someone else has it worse. That these countries are worse than we are, but we better wake up soon because things are changing and fast.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk now about, return to school. It's in person now. And
some schools are returning.
Yeah, I mean, there's like high school even, but elementary and middle school a little bit. High schools and middle schools a little bit, but elementary. What do you think about what they're talking about, this return to school? And, well, you must have questions because your work with the committee is continuing. So that's why I wonder if you could say something about how do you feel about the plan that they're talking about for return to school? And maybe what role do you feel like you and the committee and the mothers will play hope to play in these coming months and years?
Yeah, actually yesterday I did comment at the Board of Education meeting, and I did it as a part of the PTA from Everett. And what we are now talking and what we are requesting right now is a plan for the resources and what's the plan for the help for the students, the students that are coming back right now, the most vulnerable students, the English learners, all the students that have been left behind. It's not just, we were just telling them that it's not just about inviting them to the buildings, but what's the plan for them? What's going to be the education plan for them, the resources that they need, how the district is going to support these kids to actually have the high quality education that they deserve. If we help creating and bringing those resources for those kids, for the kids that have been left out basically of the system, we will be supporting all the students in the district. Because we do have, especially the Latino students, the English learners and the Latino students, out of all the students, are the ones that are usually worse and they are, just always, just for decades, historically doing worse than the system. That shows that the system is broken. That shows that the system is not working. So we want to know what is the plan to change that, what resources are needed, and how we as parents are also are going to be part of the solutions that will be in place for to make sure that the kids are going to succeed in the school. And we want to have, have graduations. We want to have kids going to college. We want to make sure that they go to the university. We want to make sure that they are going to be prepared to go to the university.
And now that we're returning I personally believe that all schools should be open. I think elementary, middle, high school, everything should be opened right now. And right now they're doing it in phases, is what they're calling. They're doing first elementary school, like my nephew can go, right? And then for middle and high school, some focal students can go, like newcomers and foster kids, and right. I understand why they are thinking this way, but I feel like we're leaving behind students like your son. And so I feel like we're leaving back our students who, when we're like in tier orange right now. And the plan for all of this should have been done way long time ago by the board or whatever if they want it. But over this journey, I've realized not to depend on the board. But I'm just saying, what is your feeling about that they're doing it in gradual succession? Like, do you think that that's the way to go? Or do you think that all schools should be open? Or do you agree with all the plexiglass that they're putting, all of that? What are your feelings about all of that?
No. Of course, I don't agree with that. I have been fighting for the schools to be reopened, all schools for all students. I have been fighting since October, and here I am. I don't have my kid going back to school. And of course, I don't agree with the plexiglass separation, and I don't agree with that. But at least now, it was really hard to have the schools reopen. It was really, really hard. And the unions are the ones that are basically fighting hard to keep the schools closed. It's the union leadership. So, and some teachers, that makes me think, what is, usually the leadership, bureaucracy and leadership, for me, when I see leadership, is like they are at other places now. They are not for the people. They do have other interests. So what's going on? Why the union president is always trying to prepare the as you said, the soil, to again trying to say that we have now the variants, because I listened to her yesterday that they want to make sure the vaccines are going to be safe and they're going to be they're going to help all the variants, safe for all the variants of the viruses. When she talks, I really it makes me think that she really doesn't read about science. She really makes me think that she needs to be reading a little bit more. She really needs to consult with the doctors. She really needs to be educated, because when she talks, she makes me think that she's preparing the scene to say, in the fall we cannot go back to school because now we do have a new wave and we have variants and the vaccines are not working for the new variants. So the teachers won't go back because we are protecting the rights of the teachers and we are protecting the kids. And this is just a narrative. Now, it's basically like she's working with someone and just someone up there, I don't know who, is just telling her what she needs to say. Because she even said that before even the propaganda news were saying that. It's just like, she already knows what's going to happen before the doctors. That's weird. So of course, I don't agree with that. And I think that's also one of the reasons that I have been working on, okay, if we want to be safe and you are not safe or you don't feel safe inside, let's have the classes outside. Let's move the school outside. Let's move the school outdoors, because we are not going to keep the kids inside. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. And I'm feeling that now we're going to fight, as like parents against the teachers, because that's what they are, having us. They are going to have the parents really, really mad, really mad.
And I think you're kind of getting at that with that last thing about, taking the classes outside or continuing the education outside. Is there any way you could even be more, like, what role do you see for the committee of mothers to fight in the future, and what is that fight going to look like?
Well, there are some parents that have been doing some work, a lot of work, to help, hopefully planning the school classrooms outside, outdoors. And I'm hoping that we could, the district could embrace that and to help every site to have that option and to have classrooms outside. Decreasing the distance have now many parents that really support that, and they have the skills, they have the specialties, and they are willing to help promoting that. And I'm going to be working with them on that, by the time when the time comes. And I'm actually already promoting that. I'm trying to promote and push for that at every school. And right now we don't have after yesterday. I think the district, the superintendent, and the board members are gonna be more supportive of that. That's my hope. That's my hope. If not, I mean, we just need to keep organizing and to have the parents promote that, advocate for that.
So they are here on what's left. Andy is a socialist and Kenny is a socialist. They call themselves socialist, and I don't identify as a socialist. I identify just as a leftist, de la izquierda, leftist, but libertarian that always is afraid of government overextending its reach in any area. How would you describe your political beliefs? Where do you fall in the political spectrum, or just your political views in general?
Mm-hmm. I also have had some kind of not trouble, but hesitance to label myself as something, right? Because I need to learn a lot more to basically to call myself this or that, right? And I'm learning. I keep learning. But just thinking about my beliefs, my ideology, that we as workers have to have the right of education, the right of health, basic rights, that we don't have it here, right? Because here, the health is not a right, education is not a right. It's those basic rights that we don't have it here. So, because I do believe that, I believe that we should have high quality public education, and it should be a right. And the government should provide, should ensure those rights. Same thing with with health, housing, work. So if you, because I do believe that and I fight for that, and if that's part of being a socialist, I should say that I'm a socialist. But basically, I'm just fighting for basic rights, just a basic human rights that we don't have it here.
If we had the kind of education system, well, yeah, that we, what would be your vision of the kind of education system you would want? And I also would kind of ask, I don't know if this is a good question, but like, to get there and to get to these kinds of changes, these rights for workers, do you think we can get there under this capitalist system, or do you think it will require some kind of revolutionary change?
And I'm gonna answer the second question, and then I'm gonna go for the first question. We need a revolutionary change. We cannot change it within the system. That's that's definitely that's the only way. And then for the education, I think what I am doing with the moms, educating the moms, and also having this alternative, a different way of learning, an alternative, we can start by experiencing people, everybody learns from experience. Kids learn from experience, only hands-on, right? That's the only way to learn. So if we are able to start practicing, to start doing it, you are going to see and you're going to learn from that. And then it can grow, right? So that's what we are doing with the Integrate. Integrate is a program that promotes that kind of education. That at least that's the vision, right? That's the vision of this program, to provide an alternative that's freedom, that you respect the kid, you respect the differences by respecting the language of the other culture, by learning the other culture, you are already changing something, right? Because we are moving from the white supremacist system and education to a multicultural, bicultural and multicultural education. The changing is right there. When you are educating our kids in a multicultural education, providing that. With that, the experience that we just had a meeting with the moms during the weekend to be talking about what's the next steps and how we're going to keep organizing. And it was really, really beautiful to listen to them when they said, we were able to see that this works, that we together can do something for our kids and for ourselves, that we together, we don't have money, but we are workers and we work. So they were able to see that working together, we can raise funds, and that money was used to provide some kind of activities for the kids, right? And also for the moms. So they were able, with just a very small example, they were able to feel it, to experience that. So now they said, now we know that we can do it. We can do more. And that was very beautiful, because that was something that you can also do it through the experience. And the moms already feel empowered. They already kind of felt that they can do it, because most of the time the workers feel they cannot do it. They cannot do it. They just have to work for the minimum wage. And, that's just the way it is. And you can't do something different. You cannot escape from that. But by creating something that shows them that collectively we can do it, that made the big difference right there. And now they want to do more. And it was beautiful, because they said exactly what it is, right? For workers, we don't have money, but we work. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's our power. And that's our power, and we do not realize that. Workers have that power. We work, and we are the ones that are producing the everything, right? It's ours. It's just that we're so alienated that we don't realize that. And it was really powerful. That, I mean, they don't know how important it is, but for me, it was right there. That's exactly what it is. That's what we need to instill on them: the proud of being a worker. It doesn't matter if you are, you know, a low-income worker. You are a worker. That's what it is. You are a worker, period. And you are important because you are a worker.
Kenny?
I don't have a question, just a comment. You know, well, thank you for waiting for me, by the way. You know, I'm really honored to share, to be able to talk to you. You know, you're inspiring to me. In you are powerful, and you know, I wish you were unique. You know, and I don't mean that as an insult. When I hear you talk, I hear my mother, you know, who shaped my life and like set me on this revolutionary path, even though she doesn't call herself a socialist, even though she realizes that she's always about community. And she's like realizing that she's been brainwashed to think of communism as something, you know, negative. Mm-hmm. But she's always advocated for people. She's always empowered people. And my hope is that, you know, that this group grows in power, you know, and empowerment of, you know, workers of all kinds, right? Not just the educated class, you know, just workers in general, you know, because everyone's had a say, everyone has a stake, and you know, you're in a fight of self-determination, you know, and that to me is a fundamental part of communism, you know, of communities, having your community have its voice, be heard, and when you're not heard, you push back. And so regardless of the government, regardless if we, you know, especially when it's our leaders, our chosen leaders, you know, and so thank you. I suspect we'll see each other, you know, in the community, because I will be reaching out. There are mothers, you know, that are, you know, that I think might enjoy that space, and you know, who care very much about their kids, and find themselves be, you know, isolated and sometimes talked down to by the professional class. You know, sometimes teachers don't think of themselves as workers; they think of themselves as professionals in some, you know. And so, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm really honored to meet you, and looking forward to talking to you more.
Great, thank you so much. And actually, that would be so helpful if we can have more moms. You know, the moms that I'm working with, sometimes they don't see me as the same, right? Because I am a professional, and I know they feel that difference, and that's not right, because we are the same. And I have been, maybe because I work as a health educator, I have learned some skills to be able to connect with the patients, you know, that actually are the families that I'm working with. So I learned that, and I had to learn how to connect with patients from different countries and from different languages. Sometimes at the beginning, I thought, how I'm gonna be able to help this patient when I do not speak the same language, right? And one of the things that I learned in my work is that the respect and the kindness does not have a language. They do feel it when they feel respected. Everything changes, and they are so open, and you can communicate even if you do not know the language. So the workers, what want more than anything is respect, and it's something that they don't have it. I'm also seeing that. So that's what I do. I just respect the families, respect the moms, and because I have seen how they are treated, and the level of racism and discrimination that we suffer here, I just always thought myself, I want to be the voice of those moms, of those families that cannot speak for whatever reason, right? And because you see the injustices, and you see how our community is being treated. But we need to change that. We need to empower. We need to teach them self-determination, as you said. That's the key. And now is more than ever that we have to realize that we need to practice that, and we need to keep practicing solidarity and mutual aid. That's the only thing that's going to help us to go through this and through everything. This is just, an opportunity. The pandemic has been very, very impactful negatively to our community, but also it's a good opportunity for all of us to see finally what we need to do, face that we need to change this, because what we are seeing right now, that wasn't normal, and the normal wasn't right. And yeah, I'm happy. I will be happy to keep working and to organize, because we need more people. We need help. I need help. It's like I have been holding the fort and I have been trying to create this. Now it's like I need help. Really, I need help, and the families need help, and the kids and the students need help. And if you need my help, I mean, we can do it together. Yeah, and I'm sure your mom is a communist. I'm sure, even though she doesn't really think that way.
Thank you, Dea. It was great.
Thank you, Dea. So that does it for this week's episode. Deyanira Calahorrano is a mother, healthcare worker, activist, organizer, SFUSD, parent, and she's a family advocate, president, spokesperson for the Comité de Madres Latinoamericanas de la Misión, Committee of Latin American Mothers of the Mission. She is also the creator of Integrarte San Francisco project, which we will link in the episode notes there, so that people can go to it if they are interested in joining. What's Left is a weekly political podcast channel challenging the mainstream left. We post information about our topics and our guests on the episode notes wherever you found this episode, or on our blog at what-s-left.webnote.com. You can find past episodes to this podcast channel there and connect with us. I remind folks, if they like anything you've heard, if you like anything that you have heard here, please share your favorite episode, rate, review, subscribe to any of our 8 platforms on Spotify, iTunes Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, or Bitchute, LBRY, LBRY, or Odysee, or YouTube for now. Let's see how long we last there. And if you would like to give us feedback about something you've heard or suggest something for us to cover, contact us through our blog. Thank you so much, Dea. Thank you. I'm Eduardo Barca with co-host Andy Lipson and Kenny Cepeda.